Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat on the way in. Look at y'all Bentley cutting up already. Ooh wee! I love a petite bourgeois bougie girl. I'm afraid, Mr. Bentley, that we will not be talking about petite bougie girls. We will be talking about the petite bourgeoisie. Good one, good one, right? You already know where I'm going with this conversation, troll. Yeah, we get into the nitty gritty this morning, right? Okay, so let's do that again. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat on the way in. And I'm just working through some thoughts. Not thoughts like a certain type of women, but working through certain concepts, right? So y'all work with me. It's stuff that I have to kind of pin down a little bit better. So y'all are just gonna walk with me or work with me, working through these thoughts. Okay, so this is inspired by BGS's video about the black bread tube. This is also inspired by a interview that Pascal Robert did on Black Power Media, which is Black Power Media channel, which is Dr. Jared Ball's channel, where he spoke about the petite bourgeoisie and pretty much them attempting to protect their position because of how precarious it is, and that many of them did come from the bottom, right? And how they practice respectability politics, etc., etc. So it got Mr. Z's wheels turning, right? Got me thinking about whether or not black women have been positioned, particular a certain class of black women, right? The educated class of black women, have they been positioned as the petite bourgeoisie in the black community, also known as the professional managerial class, also known in these parts as the colonizing agent? And if they have been positioned in that position, then what does that mean for black men? And that's a conversation that needs to be had on the black political left, right? What does it mean for black women to have been positioned as the petite bourgeoisie, right? And how does that fly in the face of intersectionality, right? Because if we're saying that black women are the most put upon because they're black and they're women, right? The intersection of black and women allows for black women to have a certain perspective, and we should, right, defer to black women because of said perspective. Um, then if they're positioned as the colonizing agent or the petite bourgeoisie or they are the professional managerial class, and which they would be, as you know, per their own words, being the most educated group in the black community, right, and being the most enrolled in college and university in the black community, why wouldn't black women be the petite bourgeoisie of the black community, right? But then what does that mean for other working class black women, and what does that mean for the growing gap of working class black men compared to working class black women, right? We already know we have less black men than black women in the black community. We also know we have less college educated black men than black women in the black community, right? So what does that mean for working class black men, that they're continuously talked down to, condescended down to by these particular professional managerial types and the petite bourgeoisie, right? Which, by the way, is a French term. And the petite bourgeoisie do not control the means of production, but they do act as the, not pretty much the intercessor, the go between the, once again, professional managerial class, which once again black women, train tracks, which black women do occupy that space. And how does that work to be detrimental to the overall black community, right? If 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 race is acted as a class concept in America, and yet you have a petite bourgeoisie acting as the buffer class within the black community, black college educated women, what does that mean for the rest of us? When all racist white society has to do, particularly on the left, is talk to these women and have them whip us into shape. I would like to direct you to the 2016 election and the 2020 election. Black women were literally called the backbone of the Democratic Party, right? We literally had politicians threatening black men, black female politicians threatening black men, right? For not voting in a particular direction. Do we not understand how black women are being positioned or have already been positioned within the black community for the benefit of a handful of those black women, but primarily white left, right? And quite frankly, in the long run, the white right, excuse me, couldn't get that out, right? Because if the white left has essentially captured the black female vote and then subsequently the black vote, then that also means that the black vote does not threaten white society, including the white right, right? So that's something that we really have to wrestle with in the black community, the clash between this intersectionality that puts black women as this moral sinner or morally superior above everyone else because of a certain perspective, because of stacked oppression, right? We have to wrestle with that in contrast of black women actually being the professional managerial class of the black community, right? Of black women being the buffer class of the black community, right? And a particular brand of black women, i.e. the Oprahs of the world, i.e. the Gayle Kings of the world, i.e. the Maxine Waters of the world, right? I.e. the Tiffany Cross of the world, the Melissa Harris Perry of the world, right? The Kamala Harris of the world, you know, the Susan Rice of the world. These particular people who have recently the Professor Crunks of the world, right? The Tarana Burks of the world, right? These people over the past, not even decade, within the past 5 to 6 years, have very blatantly told you what they're about, right? They have been elevated to being the colonizing agent. But if you want to use a euphemism, the petite bourgeoisie. If you want to use another type of euphemism, right? The professional managerial class of Black America, to the detriment of everyone, but particularly Black males. That's Black boys and Black men, right? And because this is their class position, they take our politics away from actually talking about class. That's why you don't see any of these people really talking class. They wage culture war against Black men. And this is me answering BGS with his video about the Black bread tube. As I said before, these people are cowards. They would much rather wage class warfare against working class Black men, right, under the guise of the culture war, than actually, or vice versa, right? They're using the culture war aspect of the back and forth between Black men and Black women to not actually talk about class, labor, right, money, right? Because it's just so much easier to just continue the culture war against Black men. These people are cowards. And these particular class of women, educated black women, are cowards. They do not challenge white supremacy. They think their sexuality and their sexual orientation is the challenge to white supremacy. They think their sexcapades is the challenge to white supremacy. They think marrying into whiteness is their challenge to white supremacy. Goddamn, Mr. Z. They think marrying into white patriarchy is the challenge to white patriarchy. It's the challenge to the white European beauty standard for a exceedingly attractive, well-to-do white man to marry maybe a black woman that wouldn't be deemed traditionally attractive. They don't actually have the ovaries to challenge white supremacy straight up. The petite bourgeoisie in the black community are cowards. Right? And they're so afraid to lose their position, especially that black money in America is pretty new. Black money in America is pretty new. And that's for the ones that do have the money. Right? And so because black money is pretty new for the most part, these people do not want to lose their position. Understandable. But move the hell out the way and stop pretending like you're actually doing the work. You're not doing any work. Your culture warring against working class black men. Right? You're fighting over position to rub elbows with elite whites. Right? And you're being used as the buffer class within the black community. And some of you know that you're the colonizing agent. Right? You've weaponized concepts like intersectionality to marginalize black boys and black men. As I've said before, to benign neglect black boys and black men. Right? And there's no amount of money that can actually fix that, because it's a political and economic project and social project, to be frank. To think that we have a class of black women who would much rather punch down to working class black men, to black men in general, but particularly working class black men, to punch down on them and tell them to stop aspiring for white patriarchy, which is not what most black men are aspiring to or aspiring for, instead of actually challenging those white patriarchs. You cowards. Shout out to Kim Foster. You cowards don't ever say anything to your own class of educated black women. Cowards. You don't challenge white supremacy. Cowards. You don't challenge the white women. Cowards. But you will talk crap about working class and blue collar black men who you claim want to be white patriarchs, because a handful of them might actually want to be white patriarchs. But instead of going out the actual white patriarchs, you try to get black men together because it's so much easier to talk crap about black men, because you've been sanctioned to talk crap about black men because you're the colonizing agent of the black community. You are the professional managerial class of the black community. You are the petite bourgeoisie of the black community. If you want to know why your channels are so large and why you make money and why you have maybe not majority white audience, but significant enough, it's because you are that person. You challenge nothing. You make the white left feel good about your politics. And at least FD signifier has made just the smallest comment about that, tacitly. Kim, not so much. Khadijah, not so much. Cat Black, and your politics are easily digestible for the white left, which means you don't actually challenge the white left side of white supremacy. Your sexuality and your sexual orientation doesn't challenge them. Your concepts on economics doesn't challenge them. Your concept on black men doesn't challenge them. Your dehumanization of black men, yikes, doesn't challenge them. Right? Your politics are not nearly as revolutionary as you think they are. Right? And these particular class of black women are going to have to come to terms with, yes, you are the petite bourgeoisie of the black community. With all of the failings that petite bourgeoisie always have. With all the negative traits that the petite bourgeoisie always have. Attempting to protect your class position, so you lecture down to the lower classes. And you actually are even more staunch, right, in protecting the structure because you're so afraid of falling from where you are. Just like every other petite bourgeoisie on the planet. Right? And what would that look like being painted black and XX chromosome? Regurgitating maybe some white feminist concepts on black men? Yikes. Imitating much of white feminism and calling it black feminism, like there's really a distinction. Aspiring for white femininity? Yikes. Right? So imitating and aspiring for white femininity. Meanwhile, claiming that you're not Kim Foster. Meanwhile, punching down and telling black men not to aspire for white patriarchy while you aspire for white femininity and white femaledom. The myth of white womanhood. And not just white womanhood, particularly the elite white women. You don't even want to be the petite bourgeois of white women. You want to be the elite rich white woman, painted black. Right? And y'all like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. Right? These particular women are a problem for the black community, especially the fact that we haven't had much conversation outside of the black manosphere about who these people are and their politics of containment. All they do is contain black anguish, black sadness, black righteous anger, and direct all politic of black people back to the gender war. Their politics is a politics of containment. Or at best, they're being used to contain black politics, whether that be left-leaning or right. There is no elevation of black people until you get this conversation between black men and black women squared away. And that's going to be really difficult to do when one of us are pretty much the colonizing agent of the black community. It's really difficult, and there is no challenge to that. By the way, there is no debate whether black women are the colonizing agent of the black community. That's not up for debate. If you're the most college educated group of people in the black community, which you brag about all the time, the most enrolled in college of black people, which you brag about all the time, the ones with all the middle management jobs and the titles, which you brag about all the time, the ones that are going to get the advanced degrees, which you brag about all the time, then yes, you are the professional managerial class and the petite bourgeoisie of the black community. And yes, you do not control the means of production, but you do act as the buffer class. In your politics, you and your position is used as a politics of containment for everybody else in the black community, including the working class black women who you claim to represent and do the bidding for, which you don't actually do the bidding for, let's be honest. Let alone the black men, the working class black men in particular, that you despise. You don't even do the bidding of the working class black women that you steal their rhetoric. So we know you're not doing the bidding of working class black men. And Zavi says, would you consider For Harriet a part of that class? Hell yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. She is the, for us as millennials, she is the poster face, right? The poster child. I know it's poster child. I said poster face for a reason. Right? She is the poster child of that class. Right? She does not control the means of production of anything. Yes, she has her own channel on YouTube and she has her own blog. Yes, that's true. But her class of black women, particularly Ivy League educated or maybe second tier school, right? These are some of your attorneys, some of your doctors, right? Your professional class of black women, and you listen. Just listen to them talk. I would advise anyone, even the black women that are listening to me right now, listen to this particular class of women talk, and then listen how they speak about black men, and listen, particularly the straight ones, and listen if they don't want black men just to be chocolate dipped white men. A certain type of white man too, not working class white men, not blue collar white men, white collar cubicle sitting in, office room sitting in. At the best, you're in the corner office. At the worst, you're in somebody's cubicle, typing away, which, by the way, Mr. Z used to do. Mr. Z is not actually anti that. I don't have this whole thing about condescending to brothers that might be sitting in the office all day. I don't actually have a problem with that. What I'm saying is just a recreation of that in these people's imagination, just over and over again. A particular class of black men, which is essentially white men, white professional managerial men, right? And we have to remember how much of politics in America has been captured by this certain class of people in general. Before we even start speaking about black people and black women in particular, the professional managerial class of America has captured much of our politics. Not all of it is really the elite, but these people act as a buffer, and when the crumbs are thrown down, they take just about all of it. Right? And because they're afraid of their precarious position, particularly black people, black women that occupy this class, they're the ones that are the most stringent about protecting this position. They're the ones who speak the harshest when it comes to respectability. That includes on the left with all of their anti-respectability talk. Notice when I was on Obsidian channel and I said, let me vindicate black lefties, Kim don't really mean half the things she say, because look how quick she was on that respectability when she was speaking to that young brother. Right? Once it's time to talk about black men, it's time to talk about personal responsibility. The same people that despise that talk, once we start talking about black men, now we want to talk about personal responsibility and pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And why do you listen to this person? And what in your life you got to take responsibility for this and take responsibility for that. These people always want to talk about environment and situational circumstances and all of this other stuff. But once we start talking black men, they want to start talking about personal responsibility. And there is no excuses. And why do you listen to Kevin? And why did you like Kevin? And why are you part of the black manosphere? Yeah, you're the reason he's part of the black manosphere. Your type of politics. Right? Your type of politics is why these people are part of the black manosphere. And the fact that you're so blind to see it, or you're pretending like you don't see it, only encourages people to come to this side even more. That whole your plight is imaginary. If you would just drop your whole man thing, that whole man thing you're trying to do, if you would just leave that alone, you would be so much more stress-free. Right? So these people do act as a buffer class, as the professional managerial class, as the petite bourgeoisie, right? Like I said, to the detriment of the masses of black men and even black women. And that, by the way, that's another reason why these people waged a culture war against black men. Because quite frankly, if black women, your everyday black women, start hearing more and more of these messages, like, wait a minute, what did homegirl actually do for me? Okay, she used my anger. She made a couple of dollars off of my anger, off of my rage, off of my resentment towards black men. But what did she actually do for me? How did she actually advocate in a way that's beneficial for me in a nuclear family? Ooh, that part. Maybe me as an individual, but I want to have kids one day, and if I'm straight, I want to be married one day. Her politics don't actually align with any of that. Of course it doesn't. People that are telling you straight up, look at all the black women that are telling you straight up they don't want to have kids. Paris, Chrissy, Kim from Fort Harriet. I think Khadijah said the same thing. Well, she's queer, so probably. And yet these people are standing up for you? Black women who want to be married one day and have children? Yeah, that's it. Right? These people claim to care about you, but yet they don't challenge white supremacy that got its foot up your rear end. They don't even challenge the economics of everything, which got its foot up your rear end. They don't explain any of it to you. And they claim to care about you and advocate for you. What are they doing but just putting out think pieces speaking about desirability over and over and over and over again? You want to know what really grinds their gears? Just check their channel. What are they actually doing but speaking about desirability and sexuality, right? What else are they doing, right? And finding whatever television show they want to make a whole 30, 40 minute long video about, right? Go down these people's channels and see how much they ever challenge. And this is going right to BGS's point. They actually ever challenge white supremacy or what's going on economically. I mean, we really do have, right? We do have a small banking crisis going on in the US. Any of them speak about that? No. The train derailment? No. None of it. Immigration crisis on the southern border? No. None of it. Huh. Stagflation? Nope. None of it. So when I say petite bourgeoisie and professional managerial class and the buffer class and when I call them cowards, now do you see why? I just started doing lives not even a year ago. I've already covered these things. I just started bringing people on, what, a couple months ago to have the conversation on my channel. We've already covered so many of these things. And yet you've had people who've had channels for 2 and 3 and 4 times as long as me who have not covered any of these things. Or if they have, very sparingly. You see what I'm saying? Ryan James said it's pretty much Chernobyl in Ohio. Exactly. Right? These people don't actually challenge power. They don't even talk about their gripes with white feminism, really. Because their real gripe with white feminism is that they can't pull the white woman's man. Yikes, Mr. Z. Their real gripe with white feminists is that white feminists know that they're trying to move in on their man. So she keeps you at arm's length. White feminists know you really want to be them, so they keep you at arm's length. That's your real gripe with white feminists. We have to actually ask black feminists, what have y'all actually accomplished over the past 40 years, but getting some sisters some degrees? And Kamala Harris being vice president and Ketanji being a Supreme Court judge. What? Okay. Okay, that's all right. One Supreme Court judge, one vice president. All right. You know, before that, Kamala was senator. Okay, cool. We got some female. We got a whole lot of black female Congress members. Jesus Christ. All right. All right. Uh huh. We got what, one or two black female billionaires in America. Okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah. Oprah being one of them. Rihanna. Who else we got? You know, we have Susan Rice and Condoleezza Rice. Okay, cool. Yeah. That's it. 40, 50 years. That's it. Huh. So all that punching down on black men giving the civil rights movement to white women, and that's what you've gotten from it. A whole lot of student loan debt and a couple of black politicians. Hmm. All that for throwing black men under the bus. And you claim to care about black women when you come out your mouth with quotes like we need to bring back we don't need these Negroes feminism, and Negroes is not the word you used, while black women are starving and we're living through stagflation. Let's bring back we don't need these Negroes feminism while we're living through stagflation and young people can't buy homes or buy new cars. And young people aren't having children not because they don't want to have children, but because they can't afford them. Y'all like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. Huh. And you wonder why I call you coward. Because y'all can ask people, y'all been on Roger's channel and see me check white people? For those of you that were listening in on Irv's channel some maybe 7-8 months ago, when me and the sister tag team and checked that white dude, and you can ask people that know Mr. Z in real life. I've done it in real life. Right? And Mr. Z's not a big dude. Mr. Z's not a fighter, but I'm not afraid of these people. Y'all are though. That's why y'all don't challenge them. Y'all don't even challenge them on your YouTube channel. But every other video is how we're going to intellectualize our misandry. Every other video is how black men ain't ish. You called Kim Foster came out her mouth and said useless, referring to black men, or at least the black manosphere. Useless. What are you doing exactly? That's oh, I forgot the sip and paint thing. Yeah, that. Yeah. Punching down on black men and then sipping paint. And yeah, I'm pretty sure you've donated some money to black female organizations. I'm not joking. I'm pretty sure she has. That you think the money you've donated to black female organizations can make up for you literally coming out your mouth telling black women, let's bring back we don't need these Negroes feminism, while they actually do need these Negroes, both individually and as a community? How much money do you think you would have to donate to black women organizations to make up for that type of rhetoric? Now you see why I call them the petite bourgeoisie of the black community. They don't challenge white power. They actually work to uphold it. Right? They're cowards. They are cowards. Who would have ever thunk we would be in the age of the internet? In the descendants of enslaved and colonized black folks from across the diaspora that live in the West, primarily America, would be too cowardly to challenge white power. And so they would rather chastise other black people across sex and gender lines. Who would have ever thought that day would come? And I get it. You want to protect your class position. So you don't actually challenge the people with the money and the power above you or next to you. You know, the white folks. But you talk crap about black men, that's for sure. And Detroit says, hey, Mr. Z, I have the clip. I got the clip. What clip? I'm lost. More details, more details. I think I know what clip you're talking about, but yeah. And I guess you could put that the clip that you're referring to, put it in the comments after the video. I'll check it out. Right. I have a whole lot of stuff I need to check out today, actually. A whole lot of. Right. Oh, okay, okay. And this was another. Okay. And Detroit says again, I got the clip on YouTube. Black women just said inner. Oh, wow. On the Fight Club channel. And she was married to white man that she learned that word from. Wow. Yep. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Like I said, colonizing agent of the black community. And that, by the way, that's not up for debate. How for all of those that would debate that point, you would have to answer how black men are less college educated, less upwardly mobile than black women, with a less population than black women, and yet we're the colonizing agent. Right? And Detroit said it's live now. I'll have to check it out after. I'll have to check it out after. Right? So to all of the black bread tube, um black left, yes, even the black right, there has to be a real conversation had about a certain group of black women being the colonizing agent of the black community, being the petite bourgeoisie of the black community, being the professional managerial class of the black community, and then what does that mean for all the rest of us and our politics and our social issues and our ills, right? How do these people's politics and them attempting to protect their class position, how does that work in the favor or detriment of the masses of us when these people have been anointed as the backbone of the Democratic Party and as the group of safe Negroes? Okay, Detroit. Yeah, send it to me on email. Send it to me in email. And Detroit says I got the email. I mean, excuse me, I got the clip. I can send it to you on your email. Okay. Right. So I'm still working through some of these thoughts. You know, like I said, the petite bourgeoisie does not control the means of production. So we're not necessarily speaking about just the uber wealthy people, right? But the petite bourgeoisie do operate a couple of steps ahead of or above the 9 to 5 everyday person, right? And the elite use them as somewhat of the buffer class. And because of their precarious position, because they're not wealthy and they do not control the means of production, they're even more dogged about the class structure, right? They're even more adamant about the structure and they swear by it. Now, on the left, they'll do a little bit of critique here and there. but they don't really want to shake this up. And you can see that by who they decide to critique and chastise and belittle and insult, right? Like I said, they're used as a way to contain the rest of us and dissipate our righteous anger and turn it into conversations about sex and gender instead of conversations about class and money and power, economic power, political power, and social power. Now, do black people have an outsized amount of social influence? Of course. A smidge of political power? Yes. Economic power? Not so much. And instead of us having more of a conversation about that and actually working to increase that political power and that economic power and bolster that social influence, we're having conversations about people's sexuality and sexual orientation and their desirability and who didn't want them in middle school and high school and in college and why the people didn't want them, right? We're chastising black men for wanting some type of white patriarchy. Meanwhile, these people often date and try to marry chocolate dip white patriarchs or straight up just white patriarchs, right? And thank you, Detroit. And Detroit said I sent the video on your email, right? So this is something. And by the way, what I'm speaking about doesn't apply to all black women or even most. Do black women act have a certain propensity to act like this maybe in their individual homes? Yeah, possibly. But no, this is definitely a class thing. A certain only a certain class of women, a certain type of woman can play this game. The professional managerial class of black women, the petite bourgeoisie of black women, Kim Foster. For us millennials and Gen Z, Kim Foster. Khadijah, right? Is a certain education level, it's a certain demeanor, it's a certain worldview, one that doesn't actually challenge, once again, white left norms. It just takes white left norms and paints them black and then regurgitates it right back to the black community, even if it doesn't apply, right? I mean, Zavi, in all honesty, and Zavi says it only applies to the talented tint of black women. Yes. Thank you, D. Scott, for catching that. D. Scott says, your thumbnail says Whitehall. So the thumbnail that I have up, if you look behind the black women, you'll see the on the top of the building, it says Whitehall. I did that on purpose. Thank you, D. Scott, for catching that. Thank you for catching that, right? And by the way, I'm not even looking at it right now. I haven't looked at it since I posted it, but I posted it just for that. I was actually going to post another one that I saw, but then when I saw this one, I was like, oh, no, 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 no. This is the one. Just because it said Whitehall. That's exactly why I picked it. Yeah, I peeped that too when he said Edo Keishas, right? And for those of you that don't know why D Scott said Edo Keishas, all my hoteps should know, right? D Scott, am I getting that right? Why you said educations? Right before I'm loud and wrong. But yes, it is something to that I think we really have to have a conversation of. If black women are the most college educated group of people in the black community, they're the most enrolled in college in the black community. They have the most degrees, they have the most advanced degrees, they hold political office, they are seen as the moral superior to their black male counterparts. If all of these things are true, then yes, black women are once again the colonizing agent, once again the professional managerial class, and the petite bourgeoisie of the black community. Something that they brag about quite often. Trell said, "This is the way." The Keisha Lorian, not the Mandalorian. Oh, hysterical, right? And so, like I said, this one actually doesn't apply to most black women. It couldn't apply to most black women. It's a certain class, right? It's a certain class, and and that certain class has to have a certain mindset. Once again, I would like to direct you to Kim Foster. I can't think of a better person, quite frankly. I can't think of a better person. Maybe Paris Malone, right? You had to have been born and raised somewhat upper middle class, solid middle class, trending closer to upper middle class, and that would pretty much be Kim Foster and Paris Malone. Working class black women need not apply, particularly if you're working class right now, right? Yeah, you might walk around your house like a tyrant, but you do not fit the description that I'm laying out right here. You might walk around your home like a tyrant, but these particular people, no. These are the colonizing agents of the black community. And this is, I would argue, these people are much of the reason, not all of the reason, maybe not even most, but much of the reason why black politics hasn't really gone anywhere over the past few decades. Right? What the apotheosis of black politics was getting Barack Obama into the White House. And if they could achieve getting a black woman into the White House, regardless of her politics, but particularly if she's on the left, regardless of her politics, it's a wrap. That's it. That would be the end. They won't have any steam left. They won't have anything left. Right. And on that note, you know, y'all like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat, and about to come to a close. Got things to do. You know, once again, this was inspired by um Pascal Robert's conversation on Black Power Media. That's Dr. Jared Ball's channel, right? An interview that he just did recently. This is also inspired by BGS's video on the Black Bread Tube. Um, yeah, and once again, I don't know if I said this earlier. Thank you to Dr. Thunder, referencing me being on Dr. T. Hassan Johnson's channel last week. I caught his stream about that, or his stream speaking about this, um, and yeah, and then yeah, because we, quite frankly, if we don't get a hold of this, that there, I don't really see any advancement for Black people, to be honest, because our politics is so captured by this group of people that turns everything into I was in Desire back in high school, right? They turn everything into that, right? Thank you, Longo, and thank you, Toya. And Longo says, keep up the good work. Thank you very much, very, very much. And Toya says, Mr. Z really does great work. Thank you, Toya. Thank you. Right? And Pensive says, I don't know if I agree. Black men, quote, black men are trash, end of quote, is pervasive across under 30-year olds, black women. Oh, comment moved up. Under 30-year-old to a level that I would argue all classes are perpetuating or participating in this to some degree. Yes, but they don't have the social influence. They don't have the class position, right? So I agree with you that culturally this is an issue. Of course, that's a non-starter. I agree with you on 100% with that. But I'm saying these people don't have the influence and they don't occupy the class position to forward that in a particular way. But the Kim Fosters of the world do, and the Paris Milans of the world do, right? And it's not just because of their YouTube channel, right? Kim Kim attended Harvard, so Kim could have been a writer. That's why I bring these people up, right? What did we find out from Candace McDuffie, the heavyset, um and I'm a little mixed up about her background. I'm not something she said something to make me believe that she might be trans, but I don't want to call a black woman that was born biologically a black woman trans if she's not trans. But she said something to that made me question that. I don't know. Either way, what you saw with her was for those of you that don't know, there was a black woman that did an interview. Um, she's senior writer or a senior writer for the Roots. For the Root. I keep on saying Roots with the S. I don't know why. For the Root. And she did an interview recently with Don Lemon about the Chris Rock stand up, right? And she essentially justified Will Smith slapping Chris Rock because Chris Rock has an issue, according to her. Chris Rock has an issue with black women, and she essentially justified why Will Smith. It's okay for Will Smith to slap Chris Rock, right? And so what I'm saying is that Kim Foster could have easily been, you know, Miss Candace McDuffie. And so I get where you're coming from, Pensive, but I'm saying you have to have had a certain upbringing, possibly, but more importantly, where you are now. There's a certain class you have to occupy, and then in particular, your politics have to align in a way, right? It's not just calling black men trash and then beginning end, right? Oh, okay, Trill. So okay, she is okay. All right, okay. Okay, yeah. So yeah, but yeah, something was weird, and then when she said something, and I was like, something right, right, exactly. And thanks for the super chat, Kevin C. And Kevin says, "What up? Supporting the channel and supporting the alternative black male media and black male creators. Thank you, sir. Keep up the great work." Good sir. I'll try. Right. And like the reason why I'm speaking the way I am is, once again, it's not, and I want to dismiss this idea of black women hate. Most black men in the black manosphere still date black women, still have sex with black women, are married to black women, want to be married to black women, and because like if that wasn't the case, then the entire black manosphere would be SYSBM or passport bros or trying to be passport bros. That's not the case, right? And that's because most black men, I would argue, in the black manosphere still want to have intimate relations with black women, American black women. They just don't want y'all to be a-holes and to not be to not be insufferable, right? So the reason why I put out the work that I do is to show that we can critique black women without what FD signifier said. Could you drop the misogyny? Well, we're critiquing black women without being misogynistic over here. And by the way, y'all bar for misogyny is like on the floor. Anything that's any type of critical of black women is misogyny to y'all. Oh, I forgot. We gotta come in kissing rear ass. I was gonna say rear ass. We gotta come in kissing ass first, and then we can drop our little breadcrumbs of critique and then run out the back door before they start throwing chairs. Yeah, nah, not Mr. Z. Trail, I ain't even gonna highlight it. I ain't even gonna highlight it. Right? So on that note, man, let me go get my breakfast, man. You know, thank y'all for listening in. Let's do our outro. Like, share, subscribe, hit the thank you button. Go check out other Black Manosphere content, other non-Manosphere content. And really consider and really share this one. Really share this one. Because really consider what we're saying. It's not even about hate. We have a certain class of black women who are actually going. I am a true believer in this right here. I'm not joking. You have a mandate as a black person of influence and power, whether you want it or not. Peter Parker, right? with great power come great responsibility. Whether you want it or not, once you start getting money and you have some influence in the black community, you have a mandate to do right by black people. And I've been thinking like that since I was a child. You don't have a choice. And it's malfeasance and negligence when you get into positions of influence and power and all you want to do is talk crap about other black people. When you don't actually challenge the power structure. You know Mr. Z could be doxxed, right? You think I cared when I made that video about the white dudes? Especially, some of them really know what they're doing. They could hack, they could find out where I am, who I am. But you cowards would rather go after black men, who for the most part, we ain't doxing nothing. We ain't not trying to come after you. It's your job to do right by black people, and that includes black men. It's not your job to lecture down to us every 5 seconds and to condescend down to us every 5 seconds and to call us useless. A loser that's still griping about who didn't want them in high school can't call anybody else useless. Your Harvard degree be damned. Right? A person that's so hell-bent on waging a jihad against black men that they get all up in a tizzy with Brittany Renner, an entertainer who you're supposed to be above, remember? Because she's talking about going to the gym 3 times a week, and now you're talking about how unrealistic that is. Ma'am, you got a YouTube channel. You could go to the gym. Oh, okay, okay, okay. I just put one and one together. Okay, okay. All right. Now I see what the issue is. Yeah, that's the issue. Okay, because you thought she was talking about you, right? So I'll pause right there. Truly, y'all go check out other Black Manosphere content, right? Check out and see if Doctor Thunder has something going on. Um, go check out other non-Manosphere content, so y'all don't sound like these people. So y'all could play with complex concepts, right? And some of this stuff is not nearly as complicated as they make it seem, quite frankly. But you know, so love, peace, and chicken grease. And I'll pause right here, and y'all have a great rest of y'all day. Mr. Z out. All right, everyone.